What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. You're tuning into the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I'm Ryan Thomas, coming to you live on Facebook, Twitter at Thomas Takeover. Feel free to follow me, people, as well as YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, coming to you live also on GrandstandSportsNetwork.com. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Back on the podcast for another edition of the Thomas Take, and I'm very excited to kick this one off. Yesterday, I went to took to Facebook and went live. Talked about this whole situation with the Jets trade up. The Jets make a trade; they move up from 6th overall to 3rd overall. A huge trade that will definitely send a ripple effect in the National Football League as far as the NFL draft goes, especially being that the New York Jets now hold the 3rd overall selection in the 2018 NFL draft. Talked about in previous episodes of the podcast that this was not a shock to me. I expected this to happen due to the fact that it's a lot easier to move up from 6th overall to 3rd overall. And if it's easy, and the Jets traded 3 second-round picks to move up 3 spots, I could only have nightmares about what the Bills would have had to give up to move from 12 to 3. True horror nightmares. And as far as what the Bills would have to give up, if the Bills moved from 12 to 3, the Colts would have got even more picks than what the Jets gave them, in my humble opinion. So 3 second-round draft picks is a lot to give up. The Jets deemed that was worthy, and whether it is or it isn't, that only time will tell. But whoever it is that the Jets are zeroing in on, and I do believe it's Josh Rosen or Baker Mayfield, maybe Darnold, one of those 3 quarterbacks. Whoever it is out of those 3, that player will come on board with the New York Jets, and he won't have much talent around him. So it's going to be very hard for that quarterback to come in and really make an immediate impact with who the Jets have. No running back to speak of. No real stud number 1 wide receiver. They got Jermaine Kearse, Robbie Anderson, Quincy Enunwa. They have, excuse me. They have some players that are decent, but no true studs on their team. And they were, a sub 500. I'm not even sure what the wins-loss record was last year. I'd have to look that up, but they're not a great team. So they're going after this quarterback thinking that it's the solution to all their problems, and it might not be due to the fact that they don't have much around that quarterback, and they just traded away picks that would net them players to put around that quarterback. So they better hope that this works out, and that is my argument for the Buffalo Bills. They've already moved up once. They've moved up from 21 to 12 with the Cincinnati Bengals. Holding the 12th overall pick now, the Bills will definitely get an immediate impact player and a starter, regardless of what position that it is that they take. So, all in all, who do I think they will take? Who do I think will be available? You look at the Bills roster currently, the state of the Bills roster, there's definitely a need there for a quarterback. They signed A.J. McCarron. They also have Nathan Peterman under contract, obviously. Those are the 2 quarterbacks that they have. A.J. McCarron was signed to a 2-year deal, so I would assume that he will be the starter in 2018, which I'm okay with that. But quarterback is still a position of need, being that McCarron only signed a 2-year deal. He's very unproven, only starting in 4 career games. And the Bills fans feel like that position is unsettled. So most organizations do listen to their fans. Some don't, but most do. The question is, will Brandon Beane? I don't know the answer to that question. Only time will tell as far as April 26th. But quarterback that I think will be available, 12th overall, 2 quarterbacks actually, that are in this discussion that I think will be available. One would be Josh Allen, the Wyoming quarterback. The other would be Lamar Jackson. And I took to Facebook, put out a poll for the Thomas Take listeners. Who would you rather draft, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? And over 400 people voted in that poll, and I appreciate everyone's time in voting in that poll. And they stated that Josh Allen, 8 out of 10 voted for Josh Allen. So, realistically, there's a lot to dissect there with that, and there's a lot to take in. Do people like Josh Allen for his arm, or are people scared of Lamar Jackson based on his running ability and he could eventually get hurt in the National Football League level? I think it's a little bit of both. Josh Allen, for whatever reason, there's a contingency of quote-unquote haters out there that really don't like Josh Allen. They think that he's a waste. They think that he's a bust. They think that he's just terrible. Which, going into the NFL, it depends on what you're asking of that player. If you're asking of him to be a week one, day one starter, he might not do that well. But if you're asking him to come in, learn behind the quarterback for 2 years, and then play, he could be very good. And that is something that I think the Bills will definitely take into consideration, especially if Josh Allen is there, which I think he will be. You go to the NFL draft order for 2018. There's not many teams out there that essentially need to take a quarterback. The obvious ones, the New York Jets are out there. The New York Giants are out there. Giants pick second, and the Jets pick third. So, those teams are in there. Buffalo is in there at 12, but who is in between there? That's something that needs to be looked at. And Cleveland picks first. I think Cleveland will take Saquon Barkley. The Giants pick second. I think that if Cleveland takes Saquon Barkley, they could very well take a quarterback, or Buffalo could trade up to 2 with the New York Giants and leapfrog the Jets. That could happen. Cleveland picks 4th as well. Denver picks 5th. The Colts pick 6th. Tampa Bay doesn't need a quarterback. Chicago doesn't need a quarterback. San Francisco doesn't need a quarterback. Oakland doesn't need a quarterback. But with the 11th overall pick, Miami would be on the clock, and some would say they might need a quarterback. So if you're talking about trade scenarios, the most likely trade scenario would be the majority of those teams that are picking inside the top 10. If Cleveland takes Saquon Barkley, the Giants could be a trade partner for the Bills, but at what cost? And that's what I'm a little bit scared of. Denver is looking to take a quarterback, in my opinion. John Elway's never satisfied with that position. Tampa Bay's got Winston. Colts got Luck. Chicago has Trubisky. San Fran has Jimmy G. Oakland's got Carr. Miami has a guy with a knee problem, and Ryan Tannehill. Buffalo might have to leapfrog Miami in order to get the guy that they want, and I think Josh Allen might be the pick there. I think he might be that pick. So only time will tell. If we're looking at other positions outside of quarterback that the Buffalo Bills could look at, I think that there's a definite need for linebackers. The linebacker position is a very weak one. As far as the state of the franchise and the depth chart and things like that, I think that it's definitely a position of an area of need. And there's a lot of good linebackers in this class. There's Tremaine Edmonds. There's Rashaan Evans. There's a ton of very good linebackers in this class that Buffalo would really be fools to not look at that position, and I don't think they are. Preston Brown is gone. Even before Preston Brown was gone, the Bills needed some attention at that position, and I'd look to see them maybe take a linebacker 12th overall, maybe take 2 defensive players in the first round if there's a quarterback if there isn't a quarterback that they're satisfied with taking in the first round, and there might not be. There's also the second round idea, the second round plan, so to speak, of Buffalo taking Mason Rudolph in the second round. That wouldn't be a problem, in my opinion, because I think Mason Rudolph could definitely develop into something interesting in a year or two. And that's what McCarron is, a year or two guy. We'll see what he's got. If he ends up being better than that, great. The guy's only 27 years old. And it'll be very fun to see this guy play because over the course of his career, he's had glimpses of success and glimpses of showing, that he is a solid quarterback. And I'm very interested to see how that pans out. I want to see McCarron play, week 1. I want to see that. Obviously, move up to 2 with the Giants. That changes things. That changes a lot of things. So it's definitely the title of this show with the 12th overall pick, the Buffalo Bills select. A lot of Bills fans are going to be up in arms about the title and saying, well, we don't want the Bills to pick with the 12th pick. Well, as of now, they are. They haven't made a trade. It for the foreseeable future, it doesn't look like a trade is going to be made. So Bills fans just have to deal with it and just say, hey, we have this 12th overall pick. We have a 22nd overall pick. We have 2 second-round draft picks. We have the first pick in the 3rd round. So take it for what you will. Brandon Beane moving up even to 12th overall was a heck of an accomplishment, given that you got to think of the contracts that this man had to endure as the GM of this team. Doug Whaley wrote some, Jim Overdorf wrote some stupid contracts during his time with the Buffalo Bills, and 3 of them are gone. Tyrod, Cordy Glenn, and Marcel Darius. And that is due in large part of Brandon Beane. He's gotten rid of all these players, and he's gotten a premium for these players. Even Marcel Darius getting a 6th-round pick was better than nothing, which is what it probably would have been had they continued to keep him. He probably would have been cut at the end of the season. So, all in all, I think that Bills picking with the 12th overall pick is very likely, and the 2 positions that I'm zeroing in on, Josh Allen at quarterback and Tremaine Edmonds at linebacker out of Virginia Tech. The man's 20 years old with plenty of upside. Imagine, let's just say they take Edmonds, the linebacker out of VT, and they take him, and he's playing in their defense and everything like that. Imagine lining up behind Kyle Williams and Starla Touye, along with guys like Lorenzo Alexander if he stays on the team. That would be very nice, which I think Lorenzo will. Real question is guys like Shaq Lawson, guys like Jerry Hughes, what's the future hold for those guys? We know that Richie Incognito's probably only got 1 year left. The offensive line needs to be the real priority position, and that could be a position the Bills use the 12th overall pick on. Mike McGlinchey out of Notre Dame. Man, he is a fantastic tackle. Notre Dame's got 2 solid stud offensive linemen, McGlinchey and Quentin Nelson. Nelson might be picked in the top 8, maybe top 5, maybe. And Mike McGlinchey is a top 15 pick. 2 players, 2 offensive linemen out of Notre Dame, top 15 picks. That's really what would help build the foundation of the Buffalo Bills. If they were able to fortify that line, control the line of scrimmage, in the trenches, winning in the trenches, that's what wins football games. It's always been the bread and butter of football. So hopefully, if they have these 2 picks, which I think they will, I don't think they're going to be able to trade up again. If they do, it's going to cost them, and I don't know if it's worth it. I really don't know if it's worth it, because either way, they move up and take Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is probably going to sit year 1 anyway. Josh Allen would sit year 1 anyway. The only guy that could really step in to a situation day 1 and succeed right out of the gate, I think, is Josh Rosen. And if Josh Rosen is the best one, the day 1 guy, and he gets picked 3rd overall, the Jets will be the ones taking him, and the Jets have very little around Josh Rosen to really build anything. And I think that's a real problem. And I feel bad for whoever gets picked in that spot due to the fact that they're getting picked to a team that has very little talent. And oftentimes, the teams that really, really need the quarterbacks are the teams with very little talent, and yet fans wonder why it's tough for these quarterbacks to develop. I'm Ryan Thomas. You tune into the Thomas Take Sports Podcast live on Grandstand Sports Network. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be right back.